Welcome back. Well, which organization is more dangerous to Americans, ISIS or the NRA? Well, that was the question posed by one professor emeritus at the University of Missouri.
George Kennedy's comments sparking some outrage from Second Amendment advocates, as you might suspect, and gun owners. One of them joins us now.
That's right. Fox News contributor, radio show host, David Webb. What do you think about this, Professor?
Morning.
Well, wow. First of all, this is a false premise. They love to set up these arguments where ISIS is more dangerous than the NRA, and it's a numbers game. Only so many people have been killed by terrorism. By the way, this professor talks about 9 deaths. I would remind him that Orlando, the nightclub, was 48 plus the terrorist, and San Bernardino, add the numbers up. Fort Hood was a terrorist attack. So he's not even right on his numbers. But the idea is to set up a false argument and draw us into it. So here's what I'm saying to America. Don't get drawn into it. It's not relative one to the other.
I think that, you know, if we're going to take a look at his argument for a moment and you see it in his own words, I had similar questions to you. Is like, what do you mean by this? Professor Kennedy saying, what makes the NRA so feared is its willingness to spend heavily and campaign aggressively in pursuit of its goal of removing all restrictions on the possession and use of firearms just about anywhere by just about anyone. It seems to me, David, you could make one argument and make the other argument, but putting the two together doesn't necessarily make sense.
Right, and frankly, patently false. Everything he just said about the NRA. The NRA advocates for proper training, proper laws, proper law enforcement, and obeying the laws as they exist under the Second Amendment. They're not for the wild, wild west, as they like to put it out there in these little elitist theories.
It sounds like the university is not trying to claim him, saying, well, he's not actually an employee of ours. Right, keeping their distance, he's a retired
Well, then you'd have to ask yourself the question, why would a university want to distance itself from a professor who clearly is attached to them? Apparently, they don't even agree because they realize that the majority of Americans, regardless of party, don't agree with this kind of extremist rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's an old argument that the odds of a terror attack are so low. You know, the odds is like being struck by lightning. But again, to conflate that with whether or not you have a gun or whether someone in a law-abiding way is using a gun, not related.
Let me give you another perspective on how the left likes to place arguments. They talk about crimes committed by, say, illegal aliens versus crimes committed by those lawfully present in America. You don't use that comparison either. The fact is, if you remove the crimes committed by illegal aliens from the picture, you have less crimes being committed. They conflate things. They put them together. They create false premises, or for the lawyers out there, specious arguments, and then we get into that debate. So don't engage them in the debate. Simply refute them.
No, that's good advice. Good to have you here, David.